Live from the Shooting from the Lip studio in Louisville, Kentucky, it's the KT Unearthly Show with your hosts, Kevin Hale and Tiffany Mack.
What is up, people? Kevin Hale up in the Shooting from the Lip studio on this Friday night, October 14th, 2016. It is the KT Unearthly Show, live and kicking it up with my partner in crime. I think now relaxed Tiffany Mack. Tiffany, what's up with you?
I'm here.
I mean, wow, you're here. Did you
I don't know why
get to run?
Talk radio gives me a headache.
It's hit and miss, and I don't know if it has something to do with, I don't know. We'll check all that out later. But happy Friday to you. The week has come to an end, and I'm glad. Long week, busy week. Reality is, some of us have day jobs, and that's not obviously not on you. It's me. It's
because I don't work.
No. I said it's not enough because I know your kids and you got all that going on. But Anyways, what is new with you? Have we talked this week? I think we may have talked.
You know what? We had the Wednesday show, but I was literally on just to promote this one. So right. Not much. But the I can't even think today. I think I'm still flustered with the Skype issue that we're having, and all I want is things to go smoothly for once. It's like there's always something. And on the tail end of a Friday night, you really just want to be able to sit back and enjoy the evening and have a good paranormal show without wanting to pull your hair out or jump off a cliff.
Usually once we get the show going and we get the guest on and we start just shooting it, things start to, go in our favor at that point, because then the conversation is pretty damn good. So just plugging our show real quick. You can find our show on the SoundCloud and Stitcher apps. You can subscribe to our show on iTunes and YouTube. Twitter at The Shooting Lip, at Tiffany Mac _ET, at Kevin Hale 423. You can like us, follow us on Facebook and Instagram, Shooting from the Lip and the KT Unearthly Show. Live tonight via Blog Talk Radio. Our guest tonight is Todd Rayburn. He's an author, researcher. He's going to come on, and we're going to go back in time, go back in the day, and we'll get into that in a little bit. But to kick off the show, we always we do our little take on the KT Unearthly name. We go with our TK foreplay. I sent a link to you, and that it's not per se paranormal, but it is, something that's out there that President Obama put out a statement this past week that by the 2030s, that the plan is to get people, send humans to Mars. And I went out there and looked, because obviously the distance from Earth and to the sun, Mars to the sun, the orbit, it's not the same. So what I found out is that, and you may already know this, I actually didn't know it, but it takes obviously the Earth, about a year, 365 days to orbit the sun. It takes Mars technically 1.9, years. So say closer to 2 years to orbit the sun. So there's that factor. But from all indications, a trip from Earth to Mars give or take 260 days. So closer, heading, more than, obviously somewhere in that 9-month window. But you figure by that time, if they start sending people there, those colonies, or the people who would go and occupy Mars, Wouldn't that be like a one-way ticket? Is that something that I guess people would be like volunteering to, change their whole life, and from that point on, they become occupants of Mars. Is that how you understand it too?
I've thought about this before, and I do think that a 9-month trip would be a journey of a lifetime. And I really don't think that you would have the intention of coming back unless there was some specific reason where you had to. I think that you would have to make that commitment for probably a very extended period of time, maybe 5 years, maybe 10 years, and sort of look at it like traveling to the other side of the world or something like that, and not being able to come back on a whim. But when it comes down to it, we've had a lot of people who in the ET community or UFO community claim that there are easier ways to get to these other planets, and it's always part of that science fiction realm. It's been in our minds for so long that it's obviously coming to fruition. By 2030, that's really not that far away. We're looking at 14 years, and I really do think that we have to continuously move forward. And Obama might have put the idea down in writing, but it's been there for a long time. It's been, in the works for a long time. And whether it's SpaceX or Boeing that will, taxi astronauts or people to Mars, it sounds like it will be a business arrangement more than anything, right. At least at the beginning. And are we becoming interstellar beings? Are we becoming the extraterrestrials? That's always the fun thing to think about.
Or
will we become the Martians?
Or are we going back home? Could that have been the planet from the get-go, and somehow, some way, things changed there that made people take the other trip, the trip from Mars to Earth. These are.
I'll tell you what, Earth looks a lot more. It's obviously a more entertaining space to be in.
Especially the nightlife. The nightlife on Earth is great.
That's why we're here on a Friday night discussing it.
Exactly.
But the idea of going to Mars really sort of freaks me out, because it does not look like a thriving environment. And it would have to be a large commitment. You would have to be just hating Earth in order to move, I would think.
Well, yeah, that, or you're obviously either a loner, or you just say to yourself, military. Looking at this article, I'm pulling up this article there. It's actually saying you can obviously do a return trip, but it says basically it's about a 21-month window, where 9 months to 9 months back, and you would need at least 3 months there because of the orbit. You have to, you can't just go there and then say a month later you go, oh shit, I forgot something, and want to go back.
I forgot my
because
iPad.
because then there's no Wi-Fi here, damn it. And
you
it's
didn't tell me that part.
Yeah, you did. Yeah. And so I think it's very, in all likelihood, it's possible we're going to see this in our lifetime. 2030, I'm hoping, we'll be around.
Yeah, but what's funny is last weekend I went to an astronomy meeting and was able to learn a few things. They had 5 or 6 different monstrous telescopes that we were able to look in, and this is the first time I've really done anything like that. I've been to different planetariums and things like that, but this was a little different, and it was close to home. So my mom and I went, and a few girlfriends, and the funny thing is that I really had not contemplated the idea of like solar radiation being a big aspect in this. And the journey to other planets is, one of the big things is how much radiation your body can handle, and over what period of time would it take to really just start to have the cellular breakdown and things like that. So I think that there's a lot to consider. And before we get to that stage, we even have to consider how to eliminate the radiation from our environment, whether it be on the shuttle or whatever type of, vehicle you use. And then have a place where you are not being bombarded by all of those, aspects.
Right. Probably the simple thing to keep in mind too is because of the atmosphere, the whole atmosphere on Mars, is that you're not really going to need a lot of different types of wardrobe. It should be basically the same. Colors might be different, but same little suit. Anyways.
No red heels.
No stilettos,
Probably
dear.
No stilettos.
Yeah, no.
Darn it.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's. If you're ready, I'm ready. Let's. Bring on the guest. Go for it.
All right. So our guest this evening is a gentleman that I met at the Ozark UFO conference back in April. And he sort of piqued my interest because I saw this gentleman just sort of walking around and talking with different speakers and some of the vendors. And he had really noticed that he was holding his books. And I was like, I wonder what he's talking about here. So I did get to speak to him for a few minutes, and the book that he's written is pretty amazing. And what happens is, being a Catholic, I was raised Catholic, and I went through all Catholic high school and grade school and all girls academy, and I always had questions when it came to our Genesis, not only the book, but our creation, and how we relate with the rest of our universe, and how we came to be. And this is something that he has obviously thought about himself for a very long time, and wrote this book in a very easy way to understand different aspects of the search for the truth. So,
right.
Todd is he's also a professional musician and songwriter. So I'm sure that you would like to get into that aspect. But let us start with the Forbidden Union, the Legacy of Babel. Todd,
let's start with the geeky. Let's start with the geeky stuff first, and then.
This is the part we love.
I'm kidding. That means we're all geeks, is what I'm saying.
I know it.
Welcome to the show, Todd.
Well, thank you. I'll take an opening shot to go along with what Tiffany said. The Bible's been demythologized to death, and if you were to, I'll make up a word here, remythologize the Bible, the way it was intended, it would look a lot. If you made a movie out of it, it would look a lot more like Lord of the Rings than what you got in your Sunday school class.
I'm with you.
So tell us your idea of how not only we came to be on Earth, but the idea of your beliefs in the book of Genesis, and maybe the reality of some of the terminology, and what really got you started on this quest.
Big question. I'll start with this. Genesis, the book of Genesis, was never intended to be a scientific, chronological map for the creation. It's not a science book. It was never intended to be a science book. And the creation debate is bogged down, in a debate between science and creationists. And everyone's arguing from a scientific perspective. And the book of Genesis, it's not a science book. It was never intended to be a science book. And that aspect of the argument is not even in the arena. It was written before scientific observation, and many of the things that you find in the Bible in the Old Testament are unscientifically, they're not accurate scientifically, and it's because they had the same worldview as the Egyptians and the Hittites and the Canaanites and the Sumerians. They all had an idea that the earth was flat, and there was Sheol. There was water below the flat surface, and Sheol was below the water, and above there was a dome. The stars were attached to the dome, and they were the gods. And in Hebrew cosmology, Yahweh was on top of the dome. So, first of all, the book was never intended, to be a scientific manual. However, I do believe that there is a creator that started humanity, because I base it on, I kind of filter everything through this, and that is, you can't have something from nothing. And matter is not any eternal substance, and it's subject to the laws of thermodynamics. Matter is always in decline. It's always using energy. It's always in decline. It's not an eternal substance, and so you can't turn it inside out enough. I don't care. You give me quantum theory. I don't care what your theory is. You can't have something from nothing. So that's my filter. There has to be an intelligence that existed before matter. It's philosophically incoherent otherwise. You can't have an eternal substance, that's just out there for eternity. That's not what matter is. So,
right.
So that's my filter. Now, if you're heavily into the extraterrestrial paradigm, then your filter is typically that they were the creators or something like that. And then if you're tilted toward a certain religion, that God created everything, but you can't have something from nothing. So there's a higher order, seemingly most likely in a higher dimensional realm that started matter, started the Big Bang, and interfere. I guess I can use the word interfere in the process as life was evolving, as the Earth was evolving. Someone interfered because they know. You were talking about Mars a while ago. They know there was a heavy. They call it the late heavy bombardment. If you look at the moon, it's filled with craters. Look at Mars, it's filled with craters. So is the Earth, but the Earth has plate tectonics and vegetation. You can't see them anymore. They get moved around by volcanic activity and so forth. But just as recently as 50 billion years ago, everything that would have been alive died during that event. So, I'm sorry, if you're a Darwinist, and if you want to be a Darwin, if you want to believe in Darwinism, that's fine. But there's not enough time since the late heavy bombardment for Darwinistic evolution that have taken place. So again, that's an argument that there's some sort of special intelligence that started mankind.
I'll jump in. So far, Todd, you and I are on the same page.
Wow.
I'm not. I don't think. Yeah, I think when it comes to the notion of evolution, scientifically you can go that route, but I just think realistically the timing of how beings change, the physical changes that we went through, sure. There had to be someone who I think we're part of a rigged game, and the game is being played and manipulated by this higher power, and this higher power is not divine. It's a being, or in my belief, of alien origin.
Sure.
Or could it be the people who first inhabited the planet? We could be just part of them. And but yeah, the notion that the whole Bible religion thing, they're good stories, but I'm with you. I just think there's things when you sit and I'm with you.
I don't know if you guys have ever paid attention to the origin of life field, But you know Francis Crick. You know, he won the Nobel Prize for his work in DNA, the discovery of the shape of the DNA molecule and that kind of thing.
Right.
Right. Francis Crick said, you know, only an outside intelligence could have created us, and he knows a lot more about DNA than we do. And that was after they exhausted all other possibilities, because the late heavy bombardment that I mentioned, the early atmosphere was either radiated or filled with oxygen, and so you could not have that sort of primordial soup that people present. Right. It could not exist under either an oxygenated or a radiated atmosphere. You got the homochirality problem. That's lining up the amino acids on a molecule in the correct order. They're either left-handed or right-handed. And the old molecular soup theory is dead, because they've only been able to find anything even close near a neutron star or a black hole, so can't survive. And then there was another theory that life could have arrived inside of a meteor, and they killed that one. So Francis Crick, you know, he said, our last option is something intelligent started humanity.
Well, at this point, I'm going to pause you, because you're getting into part of why I found this so interesting, and it starts with Genesis chapter 1, verse 26. And God said, "Let us make man in our image, after our likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the air, and over the cattle, and over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creeps upon the earth." So when it comes down to it, we're saying, this is what I've always wondered. First of all, there was what we call the supreme being, or God. But then again, there were multiples. It wasn't just one being talking to himself because he was crazy. It appears even in the Bible that there were others with this God, this ultimate God, among other like inferior gods or inferior beings. But that relates to a lot of different mythologies around the world. It's strange for me, as a little Catholic schoolgirl who questioned the nuns and literally got kicked out of religion class for questioning them, that it really bothered me to the point where I was like, you know what, if you can't answer one damn question, screw you. Because you should be able to
that would get you kicked out. Those exact words would get you kicked out.
I can't help it. Because you know what? I am trying to understand our existence, our eternal soul, and all of these other things that are strange concepts. It's like, come on, people, help me understand this. And I think that the way that you described some things in the book, it actually did make sense to me, and it was what actually brought me back to having a little bit of a faith, you know, and when it comes to the extraterrestrial aspect of our humanity, that really, really brought me back around. So why don't you tell us a little bit about how you believe that there were more than one being in this whole creative process?
I started the show by saying the Bible has been demythologized to death, and that particular passage is one of the main demythologized passages. It's got to go back to after Jesus had his time here on earth. He equated himself with Yahweh, the Jewish God, of course, and Judaism was threatened by his, shall I say, popularity, and he equated himself with Yahweh, and so Judaism sort of took the Old Testament, Yahweh in the Old Testament, he had sort of a Trinity-like existence even in the Old Testament, and what Judaism did was they sort of tamed the passages and got rid of the notion that Yahweh manifested himself, you know, in more than one form, because Jesus was walking around doing miracles and saying, "I'm Yahweh." So there was a threat. I'm somewhat short in this. Make this as short as I can. Our English Bibles come from that our Old Testament comes from the Jewish sort of revised texts, and so our Old Testament is sort of demythologized. So, in Catholic school, that passage is going to be the Trinity that Tiffany just mentioned. Well, that's the Trinity. Don't ask any more questions about it. When in reality, there's a group of Elohim that are right below Yahweh. They're called the sons, and I know, Kevin, I know you've heard the Genesis 6 passage a million times. The sons of God, mated with the daughters of men. You've heard that a million times. That phrase, sons of God, is the sons of Elohim, and that's what's going on in the passage that Tiffany quoted. Yahweh is speaking to the sons, and they're not angels. They are a higher order. Angels. The word angel is malachim. These guys are called the B'nai Ha Elohim. They are the sons of Yahweh, sons of God. So they're a different group. They're above the angels. The angels are like, they're servant messengers. They're like, their relationship to God is like our pets. But these sons of God characters are, this is the way I put it with my friends, the Jedi Knights. They're Yahweh's Jedi council. And in that passage, Tiffany mentioned, Yahweh is speaking to them, saying, "Hey, let's make the earth like where we are." So, yeah, it's different from anything that you've ever heard, but the language supports it. You go to Psalm 82, and go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, let me, because when I was doing some research before this, because the word "sons of God," I noticed it was connected to the books of Enoch. Help me understand, and both of you, actually, I'll throw this out there, and you both can, because I'm not, as familiar with why the book of Enoch, were, omitted from the Bible as we know it. What's the reason for that?
Well, it was like a secret knowledge.
Yeah, well, one thing was, was when it was put together as part of it. You sort of already had everything in line before. Enoch is sort of a intertestamental, like in between the New Testament and Old Testament Jewish literature. However, the rabbis, the scribes considered Enoch inspired. We don't now, but they used it. They used it like they used the other books. And looking back on it now, it's a very important book because Genesis 6, that little passage that we just mentioned, sons of God, daughters of men, it's only 4 sentences. And it's just a brief recall. Whoever the author of Genesis is just saying, hey, bam, 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 move on. Enoch is a, full-blown description of what happened during those 4 sentences. So it's very important. I'll tell you this, a lot of people don't know this, but in the New Testament, 2 Peter, book of Jude, they're quoting Enoch when they talk about the angels that sinned, that have been sent to darkness, chained, Sheol, whatever the language is there. That's based on Enoch, because that's where you read about the judgment of the bad sons. You got the good ones and the bad ones. Enoch is the home of, the literature for what was going on with the good sons and bad sons. And you've got New Testament writers, that are jumping off of that and making points in the New Testament.
I know we're probably jumping around, but as we're talking, it's just making me think of these things. But I know I did read how the book of Enoch is indeed associated with the Genesis 6 passage.
Yes.
But, where Genesis mentions sons of God, Enoch refers to them as watchers.
That's right.
Right. Now, explain your understanding of the notion of the watcher.
The watcher? They're the same as the sons of God. It's just a different term, and it's actually older than it's older than the Enoch book. It actually appears in the book of Daniel a couple of times. It's just another term for the sons of God, for the higher order above the angels. And you clearly, just like with humanity, You have good ones and bad ones. That order above the angels are free. They have a free will like humans. You know, I wanted to jump into this. I don't want to steer the ship. Or let me just say this, just to plant a seed. We can come back to it if you want. But the appearance of some of those sons of God, they had, you know, they were reported to have an appearance like a serpent. And that's what happens in the Garden of Eden story. You know, it winds up down to the west as a snake, you know, in a tree. When you compare it with other passages, it's clearly a divine being with a serpent appearance in the garden incident. And there's a lot more incidents in ancient texts where the sons of God have that reptile appearance. And the reason I brought it up while we're talking about the sons of God is because it has a relationship to the UFO phenomenon.
Well, when you talk about, you know, we've had conversations with different experiencers talking about the reptilians, and that's where you sort of bring in the serpent imagery that, you know, sort of was probably initiated by Genesis, and maybe that's where that comes from. But then again, you know, we do hear that today. We hear that about the Draco reptilians. You know, there's still these beings being seen. So you almost wonder, my God, is this what it always has been like here on our planet? Have they always been here since the beginning? Are they you know, shapeshifters? Can they identify with humans better now than they did before? Have they evolved? Or, you know, there's a lot of questions around that.
Yeah, you look at some work in that field like Dan Wright and John Carpenter. They both did work from MUFON, and they spent years documenting these reptilian abductions, you know, where they were interested in sexuality. And you go back to the sons of God, they seem to have, you know, a lot of them seem to have a reptile appearance. And what did they do? They had sexual union with women. So
I'd like to see how a serpent does that, actually.
Yeah, it would be. It's actually irresponsible.
It would be serpent style.
I don't get it. I'm confused.
Well, I think it's. I think I don't want to offend, but I think it's irresponsible if you're a UFO or an alien. If you're interested in UFO alien phenomenon, you're a true investigator, and you take that off the table, then you're being irresponsible to yourself. You know, there is a clear connection between these reptilian accounts in the ancient texts and the UFO abduction phenomenon. I don't have the answers. I'm a big picture guy. You know, I don't know the details, you know, with abductions but there's clearly a connection. You can't say, you know, that there's not. You know, it has to be on the table.
So, you know, with that said, let me real quick, Tiffany. You know, we're jumping kind of into modern time, where I'm convinced, and I'm with you, Todd, that the stories, the information we're talking about up to this point, that they've been here, they help create it, they help, you know, their obsession with women, bore them sons, kids, and then the beat kept going on. But then, you know, now with modern times, when we talk about aliens, you know, and sightings and crashes, you know, are those a different, you know, or is that a different life force from another planet? Or, I mean, what are we really talking? Because, yeah, and Tiffany, you could answer this too. Are we talking, you know, is this just different species? Because here's one thing that I've always struggled with. The notion that if indeed aliens are visiting us from another planet, galaxy, whatever, and they have the technology, dimension, they have the technology to get to us from wherever they're coming, why is it that when they get here, they crash and burn? All that distance. Yeah. It's like, oh, we traveled for however long, and then all of a sudden, you crash and then you got bodies. I mean, that whole notion, I can't buy into that.
That hasn't happened a whole lot. That hasn't happened a whole lot.
But
in relation
the fact
to
that it happened, the fact that it happened once.
In relation to all of the appearances or visitations that have happened over the millennia, how many have crashed? I mean, maybe they were like the bottom feeders of society like we are today. Like maybe they were just some of the goofballs who just happened to make it, and then we're just like, at the end. I don't know.
They were flying in a low-end model UFO, one that their brakes went out, Okay. Right. They weren't driving a Lexus, the UFO is what you're saying.
I come down on Kevin's side, Tiffany. In fact, if you go on my Legacy of Bable Facebook page, that's what it's called. I've got a little blurb there I wrote called The Logical Disconnect. And that is exactly what I wrote, just exactly what Kevin just said. I wrote, wait a minute. Now, these guys are, super tech, yada, yada, yada. And then they get here and they're looking through windows and they can't get home, and they're crashing their ships. And there's a logical disconnect there. For my view, I'm fine with ET. All the possibilities out there, I'm fine with it. But my personal belief is that what's going on here, and there's people smarter than us that have come to the same conclusion. Jacques Vallée, John Keel, these guys weren't stupid. That what's happening on Earth is a spiritual manifestation. It's dimensional, even though they're coming through, and appearing physically. I think what's going on here is dimensional and spiritual, but I don't negate the possibility of the other guys out there. So I was on with Chase Koletsky, and that's what we were talking about. There's a dimensional paradigm and a physical paradigm, and we're possibly involved with the physical or with the dimensional paradigm here. And going back to the reptilian connection I just was talking about, we got these watchers, sons of God that look like reptiles, interested in sexuality, and you get the same reports in the abduction phenomenon.
Yeah, good point. Yeah, I'm on your Facebook now. I see it. It's if I'm looking at the right post, Todd, it was a March post where you say, as a fan of the X-Files, which Tiffany and I are huge fans of as well. Yeah, so I'm reading it now, and I'm with you. I've always been just kind of like, WTF. I mean, it's like I don't get that. But if they're a different being and they're not as superior or technically superior, whatever, I guess.
But you know what?
Okay.
But wait a minute. No, you're talking about craft, and we're talking about something that may be older than time itself, or maybe something that is from a different dimension that does not need a craft. I think we're mixing some things up here. I think that there's different.
I'm with you. Right.
There's many options here, and I don't think totally that we know enough about those craft that potentially have fallen from the sky or crashed. They might not be the same thing that we're discussing, when it comes to the Watchers or the Seraphim or the Elohim, or there's all these, we're mincing topics, I sort of think.
No, I totally agree. And that's why I kind of separated from, in modern times when you hear the stories, is that I think what happened back then, the reason why we're doing this show tonight is I'm on page with that. But I think what we're saying is that we're dealing with just a totally different species or being or whatever, if they are indeed traveling and, their check engine light happens to come on before as they orbit into Earth. And
what makes things so complicated is, I'm sorry, Jeff.
No, please go ahead.
I was going to say what makes it so complicated is all that's going on. You got our experiments, floating around in the sky, and some of them crash. you have the possibility of alien life and their exploration, and then you have this spiritual thing going on with these suns, the angelic realm. So between the three, and then some of the CIA work they've done, it's complicated.
Oh, great. All right.
Well, okay,
get us back on task.
Okay. Okay. All right. So let's talk about how these sons of man or sons of God mated with the daughters of man, which is like we're going to get into like the hybridization program that sort of was probably not intentional, but because the godlike beings found the humans so fair, they decided to mate with them. And this is what led up to the idea of annihilation of those beings, which eventually led to the flood. A lot of the flood myths, correct?
That is absolutely the old Jewish view of the flood, was that it was because Yahweh was having such a problem with the intermingling of divine and human. And make no mistake, they were offering humanity something in exchange, for their intermingling. They were offering mankind their DNA, which was an offer of immortality. They're immortal beings. They're basically saying, hey, if we mix our DNA,
you may live what seems to be like forever.
Yeah, or you get our DNA.
Or 900 years, like Methuselah, or instead of the numbered days that God said, say 120 years or whatever it is.
The Bad Watchers, they're in a war against Yahweh, and from their perspective, let's screw up the genetic code, and then from the human perspective, hey, we get God DNA in our family, in our line. And that's why the book's called The Legacy of Bable, dealing with that whole program. You get that passage in Genesis where Yahweh comes down and says at the Bible Project, hey, he's talking to the sons there again, in the passage, and he says they can do whatever they imagine, and the passage says he makes them where they can't comprehend each other, and he does something that doesn't say, the text doesn't say, he does something to scatter people away from that area. And so the whole deal was a genetic program to change humans into semi-divine. That was the program in the Bible. That's why God took a drastic action to interfere with the program. And what you get in mythology is you get a trail. You get three trails in mythology after Babel. You get a trail from Cush, you get a trail from Nimrod, and you get a trail from the serpent, the Watchers, that look like serpents. You have a mythological trail, those three trails, they go all the way through mythology, everywhere on the planet, all the way to the tip of South America. When they spread out from Babel, they took those stories with them. It's collective memory. Mythology is collective memory of reality.
Heavy, deep. Question is, in your opinion, are there watchers still with us now?
Yes. Yeah.
Are they? Is there a watcher for each one of us?
Ooh, I like that question. Good one.
Yeah, that's a good one. I don't know the answer to that.
Would that be what we call our guardian angels?
No.
That's where I'm going.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
no.
I mean,
no.
or
the watchers
and
the angels are distinguished. But I did write about this in the book. There's something in my book that I call the Watcher Paradigm.
Mm-hmm.
And what it is, I think the chapter's called Kingdom Come. I can't remember. Tiffany just read it. I don't know. But anyway, I sort of document how the Watcher Paradigm appears in history. For instance, Nazi Germany, they were fueled by, a belief in a genetic Superman, a former race of Supermen. And there's no doubt in my mind that the legend of the Nephilim, the God men, and that's
but
one
this is. But you're talking about, like, when you talk about the Nazis, you're talking about how, like, Heinrich Himmler actually wanted to get us back into that more what he considered to be a pure genetic state. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I mean that goes into, like, racial cleansing, and it becomes more of a scary sort of just a terrifying alternative.
Yeah, the whole idea was based on, you heard the term Aryans. They were,
mm-hmm.
A race of supermen. It has a
mm-hmm.
relationship to the mythology of the Nephilim. But that's just one example of, how the Watcher paradigm has influenced humanity. It shows up throughout history. Some of these secret societies. What are the guys that meet? Is it Bohemian Grove? They were discovered to have a worship ceremony of the god Moloch, and Moloch he's descended from the legend of the Raphaim, which is a Nephilim tribe, and some of these Nephilim tribes had that same serpent appearance. So you were saying, you were asking about the Watchers. Are they still around? I think that they are the enemy of good. I think there's a work going on in the earth from the Creator standpoint, and I believe there is an opposing force of bad Watchers. I think there's good Watchers, and I think there's bad Watchers, and I think that when Jesus appeared on earth, it was sort of a statement, a moment in history where God was saying, okay, I'm going to begin the end of this Watcher problem, because the Watcher problem has created a lot of humanity's problems.
Well, that goes back to the original reason for the flood, though. He tried to wipe out these hybrids.
Right.
Okay. So, and the idea is that with the Armageddon on the horizon, that the intermingling of our species will be eliminated again? Is that the potential crisis?
Yeah. I was just talking about Jesus representing sort of a statement that God has began the extinguishing of the bad Watchers. When you look at the word Armageddon, and I covered this in my book. It's when you read in Revelation, you come across that word. John says he makes the statement in the Hebrew tongue. He makes a point of saying that in that passage, which is in Greek, and the Greeks didn't have a sound. They didn't have a letter for the Hebrew sound. The letter is like a backward apostrophe, and it sounds like in Hebrew. So what the Greek translators did was they put a G there because it was the closest thing they had to that Hebrew sound, and so the word became Armageddon, and that single letter changed it took some of the punch out of the word. When you take that back out of there, the word actually means Mount of Assembly. And the Mount of Assembly appears in Isaiah 14. Talking about this war of the Watchers. In Isaiah 14, you get this figure that says, I'm going to rule the Mount of Assembly. I'm going to be above God. So Armageddon is really a term that means, a confrontation between a war between gods and men. So you turn on your television and see Jack Van Impe or whoever, and they talk about Armageddon. It's sort of a war between Russia and China and yada yada yada. The word really means the real meaning. What he's trying to say is it's a war between the Watchers and men, good Watchers and good men against bad Watchers and bad men. I was talking about this. I started the show with this. It's much more mythological than we've come to understand. It's a war between gods and men.
So how do you think that relates to the current situation with alien abductions and hybridization program?
I really think that the UFO phenomenon is sort of and remember, I'm not anti-alien. I'm fine with aliens on other planets. But I think the UFO phenomenon here is sort of a down payment leading back to that offer of immortality. The ancients' reason for mingling with the sons of God was that immortal DNA, being like a god, the mythology of the god king. That's where it comes from. I think the UFO phenomenon is sort of a pathway, not the total, but sort of one of the ways that we're going to wind up back into, I guess, for lack of a better word, a revelation that those divine beings are there, that they're out there, and that like we're going to mingle with them again, like in the days of Babel. And I think there's a quagmire. Divine beings, when they appear, when we see them, they're going to be automatically assumed to be alien, and aliens now are assumed to be divine. So there's sort of a quagmire. You can't have one without the other. So the UFO phenomenon is very important from the watcher agenda perspective. Now, I'm not saying that there's not abductions. I'm not saying that there's not aliens. I'm not saying any of that. I'm saying it's a convenient vehicle for them to reintroduce that program that they tried at Babel to have a mingling between divine and humans. Immortality is on the table. They're going to have the knowledge that we want. Our number one desire is to live.
Right.
So yeah, but most of the people that are involved in this are not people who are in the government or who are in charge of anything.
Yeah.
So how does it relate to the little people?
You got what they need. I mean, there's got to be a connection to why they are attracted to, these people who are quote unquote being abducted. Is that there's a certain gene, there's a certain DNA, there's a connection, there's something they.
Yeah, well, I'm sure you guys have had people who talk about, the world order that's coming, and we're slowly being, herded into, we're being, slowly brought into one controlling, power on Earth. So they don't need the little guy. The little guy is not going to get in the way of a one world agenda. And I definitely believe they're behind it, and I definitely believe that the people in power who want a world order worship them, even if it's not directly, over the traditional God, we'll say. So the little man's just not gonna matter, ultimately. The little man's not gonna have any power to stop it.
Now, all right, this is where yeah, it is. This has been very heavy. And Tiffany, we got to get into the practice of this, so I'll say it. We're here, Tiffany Mack and myself, Kevin Hale, are here on this Friday night, shooting the shift with our guest, Todd Rayburn. Todd, who is an author, researcher, is just laying the hammer down tonight. Man, this is like heavy stuff. But check this out, Todd. This is my belief now when it comes to who I am. I'll say me. And I think, within my DNA, and I guess it could be, used for other people too, but in my case, my DNA, if someone could truly decipher everything, because what is it? What is it? 98% of it is what, junk DNA or whatever, or what is that? Yes.
How about stop using junk DNA and just say unknown purpose?
Well, okay, unknown. If they could know, if someone could really understand my genetic marker, my tag, I think that you could find out from my DNA that, Kevin took his first breath on April 23rd, 1967. Oh shit! This DNA, his tag right here says, his end date is this. I think everything is laid out. My life, it's totally coded. It is like we are a live what a programmer would develop, from soup to nuts. It's every a little program, everything is on its. Well, here's another way to look at it. If for every, a car dealer or a car builder, Ford, they make all these cars. Yeah, they could create 1 million of the same cars, but those 1 million cars will all have their own little lifespan because something along the way, some part, some wire is not going to go as planned. It's going to shut down. It's going to quit. I think that's how we're made. I'm hoping my DNA, if someone can tap into my DNA, that I'm going to live to be 100. I'm going to live, and for us to Tiffany and I to do these shows for a long time. And I'm going to have fun.
I'll add to that.
Go ahead.
Well, I'll add to that. I think that you have the genetic markers, for immortality. They're just turned off.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm getting at.
Turned it off.
Yes. Yes.
That's the Eden story. That's the Garden of Eden story.
That sounds like cosmic design to me.
Well, I mean, I just think, somebody, whether it's the Watcher or, whatever that higher power is, it's like, right now the intentions are that no one lives forever, or some people do, and we just, don't know. I mean, it could be people. Who's to say that they're not living forever and they're just part of some grand plan? But yeah, I mean, I truly believe that, all of us, we're the three of us are here tonight, not by chance or not by coincidence. It's how we were all wired to be here tonight. And, that's just the way it is. And who we talk to next Friday, Tiffany, that's who we may have thought we scheduled it, but that's just how it is. And that's it. That's my opinion, so.
Okay, I'm going to throw out a question there for you, Todd. What do you feel about the Rh negative factor when it comes to the alien hybrid possible DNA contribution?
I'm completely uninformed on that. Can you tell me the basic idea?
Well, okay, so we have this Rh factor. It's a rhesus positive or a rhesus negative factor, and it goes back to an idea that we may have some type of blood anomalies that are in relation to the rhesus monkey. I'm not saying that we're part rhesus monkey, but it has some attributes that are similar. Some people have it, some people don't. A small population actually do not have this part of the blood type. And so in order for an Rh negative woman to have a child with an Rh positive man, we have to get something called a ROGAM shot in order for us to not abort the baby. Wow. So in order to sorry, I was reading Kevin's message. Back up. So in order for us to procreate with another human being, we have to make sure that our blood type is compatible. There's only a small population on the earth that has this problem, and most of them end up being from Northern European descent. There's a lot of factors that are very common within this group: light eyes, lower blood pressure or lower body temperature, more psychic abilities, and among that, most of the extraterrestrial contactees are Rh negative. Yeah.
That is wild.
It makes you think, doesn't it? It makes you really, really think about it. And the funny thing is, honestly, with it being such a small population, I've really come across a lot of abductees who are Rh negative. So I can't count it out.
Well, sounds like whether it be, a physical interplanetary being or, one of these watcher dimensional guys, it sounds like there's something about RH negative coding that is important to something that they're doing.
But doesn't that
That's
feed into
interesting.
the idea
I
of the watchers and the cohabitating with the sons of, or the daughters of man?
It sounds
is Chris really the father of your girls?
That's
Tiffany?
a very good question. We probably shouldn't discuss that on air.
It sounds like I'm being funny, but I know your history with things that you've experienced. So and we're think about what all we've said tonight. Just saying.
My girls look 100% like my husband. I'm sorry.
Oh yeah, you got there. You're right.
But they are super, super special, like all children are.
That's very interesting. I want to read some more about that. But it sounds like some sort of marker that is needed, for something else.
Right. It may be part of the process. They're searching for people with this Rh negative factor who may be able to be more compatible with their bloodline, maybe.
You look at, this will sound like I'm jumping off, but I'm not. You look at the prophetic implications of the book of Revelation, 2 Thessalonians, and so forth. This guy that's prophesied to appear, called Antichrist, he is a hybrid of some sort. And the language sort of leans toward, if you read the book the other day, you saw this, Tiffany, the language, concerning the Antichrist sort of leans toward he's the son of the Watchers or the son of Sheol or, that type of language. He's a human Watcher hybrid. So, if you believe in it, prophetic statements, if you take the Bible, as the inspired word of God, and here you have these prophetic statements that are saying, hey, in the future, in the end, at the apocalypse, this hybridization deal is going to pop up again, and this guy's going to be called Antichrist. You literally have that in the prophetic vein in the New Testament. To the reptilian thing and the UFO thing, it seems like a convoluted mess, that no one can really resolve. But I find myself leaning once again toward that sons of God, that hybridization deal, Genesis 6. Here we are again. We're talking about prophecies at the end of time that say this figure is going to be like those guys way back in Genesis 6.
This is going to sound it's going to sound like I'm joking, but I'm actually not. Where do you think, is it possible that one of the male candidate for presidency might have something a little
reptilian?
Yeah.
I don't know, man. It would be kind of cool if during one of his next fits that he throws about getting all these accusations, that if a fly was to go by his face, his tongue would like reach out and grab it about 2 feet away. That would be
oh my
great.
God, Hillary's good too.
It sounds
I
like
think they both could.
David Icke.
Yeah, go ahead.
David Icke, or David Icke, how do you pronounce his last name?
Icke, I think.
Icke.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds like the work of David Icke. That all these guys are watchers.
Well, and then let's get into let's go into the British royalty. They've always talked about Queen Elizabeth and having never aged in the past 50 years. She's always looked the same age.
Oh,
and as long as I've been alive, she hasn't changed. Maybe she's
you suppose that genetic technology is advanced behind the scenes and only the elite have access?
Maybe, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's a possibility, yeah.
I think it's definitely a possibility, no doubt. I hear, the U.S. military was. You ever seen the Phoenix Lights incident is one, but that Japan flight was the 1628 incident. That's my favorite UFO incident. You got
with the
FAA,
big mothership.
the Air Force. Yeah,
Right.
everybody.
Yeah.
Everybody
1980, I think. Or, 80s. Yeah.
You got that kind of technology going on, and, the argument is it us or is it alien? If it's us, then, and we have that sort of technology that we can hide and just bring out for testing, then what do we have behind the scenes with genetics?
Yeah. But that particular, but that Japanese incident, he's describing this mothership. That's where I kind of first heard the term mothership, where this thing was, the size of, it was huge the way he was describing it. And I just would think if something that big would have taken off from this ground, like it was something man-made, it might have got picked up in visual, before it got to the clouds.
Yeah.
And then, the Phoenix Lights too is another one that I've always been amazed with. That was in like 97, where, we're not building mile-long, well, I don't know if it was mile-long, but football-sized aircrafts.
Football field size.
Football field size, that, are just slowly passing in the sky with no sound. Thousands of people witnessed this. The governor later acknowledged that he did in fact see it as well. And it's like, okay.
After he made a total comedic
he played that little stupid
display and brought in, Mr. Little Gray Man to, the costume guy. Yeah. He made a big joke about it, but then he claimed later that, he absolutely saw it and believed it.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you say to that?
Yeah, if you're tilted toward, believing that those are alien craft, that's one thing. If you tilt toward it's us, my point was, then what do we have behind the scenes?
Right. Exactly. No, that's a good point. That's very good.
Even though, let's just say it is alien. Let's just assume 100% of those the Phoenix Lights in Japan 1628 are alien. Then that means we're in, cahoots with, our government's in cooperation with something else.
Mm-hmm.
But it's still behind the scenes, and it's still for the elite, and it's still in secret.
All right. We as X-Files fans refer to him as Cancer Man. Just saying.
Amen. Absolutely.
Still my all-time favorite show. Yeah.
Well, Todd, did you have anything anything else that you wanted to bring up before we do our little special deal at the end of the show?
No, I really wanted to get into the reptilian connection with UFOs. I really wanted to make that point that if you take that off the table, then you're shorting yourself, of the information that you need to come to a educated conclusion about what's going on out there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, I think that we all agree that there is some kind of deviant out there. So yeah, it's sort of scary to even think about, but it does. It's been documented throughout the world.
Tiffany, they probably all those
Canadians.
deviants reside in Canada.
Oh, do they? I thought Canadians were very peaceful and respectful of everyone.
That's a facade.
Like Remy.
Like Remy. It's all a facade. We're yeah. Go ahead.
I was going to say, I do think that, Jesus' appearance on the planet represents the commander of the good guys, can I put it that way? And that he is a statement, his appearance is a statement that there's a war between good and evil going on around us, and the UFO thing is quite possibly part of it. So
I hear you. All right, let's if you're okay with this, Todd, let me throw a curveball at you and let's talk music, man. Let's tell us about your music history, because you said you said you've retired. Did I hear that right?
Yeah.
You never really retire.
Yeah, yeah. I'm, for the most part, out of music. It just evolved. My life just evolved that way. But it's been pretty recent. So up until this year, I've been heavily involved in professional music. I had two main things I did. I was the drummer in a band called Altered, and Altered had a label agreement with Ardent Records out of Memphis there.
Cool.
And so we, in fact, we did something revolutionary. It was, at the time, it was 2007, I believe. We, Ardent had faith in the song. I actually wrote the songs, believe it or not, even though I'm a drummer. I would take my lyric and sort of communicate what I was thinking, and the guys in the band would jump off and we'd create a song. But anyway, Ardent felt confident in the songs as being, radio potential. So they invested, I don't know, probably about $50,000 into our first record.
Oh wow!
And
cool.
we did something really revolutionary. We had our label contract was verbal, and there was a guy named Dana Key. He was a pioneer in Christian music with a band called DeGarmo and Key. They were one of the first bands in the 70s to play Christian rock. Dana was the A&R guy there at the label, and Dana and John came up with the idea that we would do a verbal agreement with. They would record the record, and we would pay them back from our travels and music and merchandise sales on a verbal agreement. It was a character thing. Everyone involved were men of great character, so we did it as a verbal agreement, which I thought was really neat and revolutionary. Now you'll love this, Kevin. Part of the label, I guess you'd call him the vice president. He's the president. I think he's the president of the label now. I know you're familiar with the band Big Star. They were, one of their records is considered one of the 50 greatest albums in rock and roll history.
Right.
They were influential with Nirvana and bands like that. Jody Stevens from Big Star was part of our group there at Ardent. The label we were involved with there. Jody was involved with our music production and just administrating the business of the band. And that's how it is in Memphis. You go to Hollywood or go to New York or go to LA, there's sort of a barrier. But in Memphis, you walk in a place and there's Jody Stevens standing there, in Big Star. It's much more of a, it's much more relaxed and informal and personable down in Memphis. There's people like Jody Stevens from Big Star all over the place.
Yeah.
And that was one thing we did. Now we traveled and worked off of those two records for 10 years.
Oh wow.
And I had another professional outing, and that was with a group called Memphis Jones. And that was, you ever been to Memphis, Kevin?
I have not. I've heard lots of great music stories there, though.
Go back a little bit, in Washington, D.C., the Smithsonian Institute decided to do a Roots of American Music exhibit, and they were going to put it right there on the mall with the other museums. And they started studying music, American music and where it came from, and everything that they uncovered, everything wound up back in Memphis. These musicians came out of the Delta in Mississippi and migrated up to Memphis and played their music on Beale Street. And that music became jazz and rock and rhythm and blues, and the whole deal. So Smithsonian was seeing everything was coming out of Memphis, in the beginning. So they decided to put the exhibit in Memphis. So when you go downtown to the FedEx Forum, where the Memphis Grizzlies of the NBA team plays, that Smithsonian exhibit is there in the arena. And you see how American music all came from Memphis. It's all rooted here. So my second professional outing, a couple of guys from Altered, Memphis Jones and Mike Stoker, we formed a three-piece, and we did a show. It was kind of it wasn't necessarily aimed at tourists, but the venues we played in were typically filled with tourists. One of our venues was B.B. King's Blues Club on Beale Street there in downtown Memphis. We came up with we made a show where we played the songs of the early blues men and the early rock and rollers. Like we played Jerry Lee Lewis and told the backstories behind the songs, and played some Elvis with the backstories, and played some of the blues songs with their backstories. And we had a 2-hour show that told the typical tourist, and every night the B.B. King's was filled with people from Germany and England and Sweden and Japan. I mean, every night. And we told the story through our 2-hour show. We played the songs and told the backstories of how rhythm and blues are fraternal twins on the music tree, and that all came out of Memphis off of Beale Street. In fact, can I tell you one of the stories?
Go
Just
for it.
one real quick.
Go.
Elvis finished his record or his movie. He did his last movie that he was contracted to do, and he was anxious to get out of the movies and back into music. So he comes to Memphis. I think it was where you remember the '68 comeback special where Elvis is in the round in that black leather suit.
In the black, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Right after that show, he flew back to town, back to Memphis. I think that was '68, and he shows up at American Sound Studios near downtown Memphis, unannounced with his whole entourage. And
I heard
he knocks
that.
on the door. Yeah, he knocks on the door, and Chips Moman is the producer in there. And Elvis says, "Hey, we want to record some songs." He shows up unannounced. And Moman says, "Hey, we got someone in here, Elvis." And Elvis says, "I'll pay you triple." So Moman says, "Okay, let me go talk to this guy." And so Chips Moman talks to the guy. He talks him into staying at the Peabody in downtown Memphis for a week so they can bring Elvis in, and Elvis records some of his greatest songs that week. And I think he recorded Suspicious Minds that week for sure. I can't remember some of the other songs. But anyway, after a week, he's done. Chips Moman brings the other guy back to finish the session. Well, the other guy was Neil Diamond. And he didn't have Sweet Caroline until he stayed at the Peabody for a week waiting on Elvis to record his songs. So Sweet Caroline by Neil Diamond would not have existed if Elvis hadn't booted him out of the studio for a week.
Okay. There's a nice connection there. I like that.
Isn't that great?
Very cool. Yeah.
We would play those songs. We played Suspicious Minds and Sweet Caroline and told that story. So those were my two professional experiences. And I played a lot of places around the country. I had a dream come true. I played all over the place.
I can tell you.
Kevin only wishes that he was a musician.
I do. I live vicariously through my music friends.
Through Greg.
It's
through
a lot of friends, and to me, music is the universal language. That to me is it.
Well, if it makes you feel better, I live vicariously through NFL players. I love the NFL. I played football when I was young, and I like playing football better than playing music. But I wasn't good enough to be a college or pro player. So
you're not 6'6" and 350 pounds.
So I focused on music after that, but I still.
There you go.
If someone snapped their fingers and said, "Todd, what do you want to do right now?" I'd say, "I want to play in the NFL." I would take that over touring with U2.
Oh yeah.
Heartbeat.
Okay. All right. Yeah. All right. I'll give you that. But I have to throw at you real quick. I'm gonna one last music thing, and then I'm gonna go to what we call our round of shots. But you mentioned you're basically the drummer who wrote the lyrics, right?
Yep.
My all-time favorite band, rock and roll band, is the same way. No, their drummer wrote all their lyrics. The other two did the music. They recently got into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and they're a Canadian band. That should do it for you. 3-man band.
Golly, why am I having a
Tom Sawyer.
Okay. Rush.
Rush.
So Neil wrote did he write the lyrics?
Moving on.
Or We moving on?
I'm sorry. Oh, well, yeah. This last segment before we let you go is what we call our round of shots. I'm going to give you throw six questions at you. It's like a quick Q&A just to have some fun with.
Yep.
Quirky kind of thing. So play along. Number
I'm
one.
mad at this, but it should be funny.
Yeah, these are actually pretty painless. Number
Keep
one.
it clean.
First.
Keep it clean.
Yeah, I will. Yeah. First concert.
My first concert, golly, I don't even know. I'll tell you, one of the very first few, I saw Prince's Purple Rain tour.
Oh wow,
That
good
crazy?
one.
I was there at the Mid-South Coliseum in Memphis at the Purple Rain tour, and the time opened. How about that?
Oh yeah, Morris Day in the time.
Yeah, that's right.
Nice. They did the bird. Do you know how to do the bird, Todd? Did you do the bird?
You know what? I think I could resurrect that.
I think you
Next
could.
time,
too.
I'll try to have Skype video for you.
Yeah, do that. Record it.
Nice.
Record it. Put it on Facebook. Tag Tiffany and I. We'll want to see you do the bird. All right. What's the number two? What's the strangest thing you have eaten? And I don't need any names of people. You know, I'm
it
thinking.
clean.
You know, that's what I said. Keep it clean, Todd.
I'm a meat and potatoes guy, so the strangest thing I've ever eaten is escargot on a cruise ship.
Yeah.
Oh, you know what? I have
Tiffany?
tried beef tongue though.
Have you? I haven't tried that.
I tried beef tongue. I was watching Andrew Zimmern on one of the food shows. He said it was like filet mignon. I was convinced. I tried it.
Did it taste like filet mignon?
It didn't taste like filet mignon.
You know, he's always a tricky character. You got to compare it to crickets. You got to compare it to like eating potatoes.
I got the guys in the band that tried, and they did not appreciate it. I'll put it that way.
Tiffany, what would be the strangest thing you've eaten, Tiffany? Because you've traveled.
Oh yeah.
Abroad.
I've actually, let's see, I'm not a big fan of cuttlefish, but I've eaten cuttlefish, which has like a really crazy black ink to it. So very strange. I guess sea urchin was a little weird.
Ugh.
Yeah, it's a little slimy.
That looks bad. That looks bad.
It's not something that ever comes across my table anymore. So yeah. Yep. I'll tell you what sounds crazy, but really, really excellent is octopus on a grill with just lemon juice and salt. Incredible.
I'm good with that. Just every time you have it somewhere, it's overcooked.
Yeah. No. Oh yeah, you can't overcook it because then it turns out like rubber bands.
Did you guys see Andrew Zimmern try stinky tofu? You seen that episode of?
I haven't seen that, but I'm sure I'll admit because I now have found myself watching his shows. So yeah,
it's kind of gross.
He's eaten everything on the earth, right? He said that was the foulest taste he's ever experienced. Stinky tofu.
Yeah.
Run out and get it today.
Yeah. I tell you what's funny is seeing your dad eat earthworms just for the heck of it, just to make you go, ew.
Yeah.
Wow.
Will. All right. Let's see. Next question. What's your favorite phone app?
I don't have a. This is bad. I don't have a single one. I've never downloaded an app.
You don't? Do you have a smartphone?
I do. That's sad.
But you're not okay.
I'll send them some good apps. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, there's yeah. All right.
It's okay. Suggested to them, like when they're suggested, I'm like, go away.
Yeah.
Get away from me.
Well then, we'll Tiffany, we'll hook you up with something. All right. Let's see. It's 1, 2, 3. All right. If you were an animal, what would it be and why?
No question. Cheetah. I always loved cheetahs when I was a kid, and it was just because they were the fastest animals on earth. I like that sleek body. I just always loved. I had posters of cheetahs in my room when I was in the 3rd grade.
Well, right next to the UFO books, correct?
Yeah, that's right. I just love the sleek elegance of a cheetah. I just do.
Was that before or after your Farrah Fawcett picture?
Let's see. I had a UFO poster, a cheetah poster, and that's it. I didn't have Farrah.
No, Farrah. Okay.
No.
You say so.
Yeah.
All right.
Believe me, I was looking at my neighbors.
Oh. All right. Number 5. In the last month, what would be the most frequent website you visited?
Oh, shoot.
Now, this one you can be brutally honest because this is internet radio. So if if you're,
come on, Kevin.
I'm just saying, he can tell the truth if it's true.
Well, it's not any of the dirty stuff.
Okay, well, all right.
I have. Let's see. I'll tell you what. This is related to what we've been talking about, but
okay.
I've been reading a PDF file. It's very long of a work, a paper published by Amar Anas, and the paper is about the origin of the Watchers. He one of the first people in 2010. You can't believe this. It took till 2010. He was one of the first people to do a really scholarly comparative study on the origin of the Watchers, and they go back to cuneiform stuff, Babylonian, Sumerian, to a group of beings or sages called the Kalu. And the Genesis Watcher story, you guys know about the borrowing. Everybody borrowed stories from each other in the ancient Near East. The concept of the Watcher in Enoch and Genesis comes from the Kalu, which were an ancient Babylonian watcher. So I've been reading that paper, and it's long, and it's it reads. It's a dense read, so I'm having to read it over and over.
Well, why don't you send that to me, and I'll share my favorite apps with you.
Okay. Okay.
Well, I'm gonna kind of throw it out there. For the last month, all I've done is spent the last 30 days and nights looking at all the reptilian positions that they use to procreate.
What in the world are you?
So you
yeah, I'm being stupid off that. And
you need to go to church.
No.
I'm going to write you a prescription for a good sermon on Sunday.
All right. Okay.
Well, he's just
that's comedy. That's my comedy. Yeah, that's my comedy. All right. Last.
Do I get the last question? No, I want to get the last question.
You both do. You'll get to share it. Guess first, Tiffany. If you had access. Oh, you wanted to ask the question?
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead. No, I'm sorry. Well, then go. Go.
Okay. So, Todd, this is one of my favorite Kevin Hale questions. Okay.
Okay.
I'm scared.
If you had the opportunity to get into a time machine, where would you go in your past or the future?
Wow, what a great question. Remember that X-Files episode where that Negro baseball player was an alien?
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. He was on Law and Order at the time, too. Remember the guy? Yeah.
I was sort of predisposed to the good old simple times. I might travel like the alien and be a baseball player in the early days of baseball, or I love the West. I love the American West, 1800s. I could travel back to Tombstone, Arizona during Wyatt Earp's time. That type of thing I would. So there's two right there.
So what's your thoughts on gun control?
No, well, hold on. Before he answers that, Tiffany, where would you go?
Okay.
Give us yours. A little snort there. Well, yeah. Where would you go?
Oh, you know me. Ancient Greece, man. I'd be hanging with the gods.
Yeah.
the gods of
number
Greek
3
mythology.
Number 3 for me would be to see these hybrid guys like the Nephilim.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'd like to travel and see that.
I'd like to see it too. Yep. Either that or can I be somebody else? Could I be Helena
No,
Troy?
you can't be. You can't be. You can only see.
Oh, okay.
But
All right.
it's like
I'd like to be around the ancient gods.
Okay. My Monday night co-host, when we do a Monday night show as well, where we talk any and everything. And my Monday night co-host is kind of controversial. He's an atheist. So,
oh, wow.
And we love talking religion and politics on Monday nights. But
wow.
his favorite thing to do with the time machine is to go back in time to when Jesus was being crucified. But he'd go there with all this artillery, mow down all those Romans, and look at Jesus and say, "I'm your savior now. What next?"
That's so bad.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, that's rough.
Yeah. So that's rough.
Well, one thing you cannot do is you can't deny the historical fact. That he was a historical figure, whether you believe he's the son of God or not, it's up to you.
Yep.
But, I think he was the son of a god. I'm not sure. I just don't think he was the son of the god. But anyway.
He is a fact. So.
I believe that. All right, good show, Tiffany. It was heavy tonight.
It was fun. It was a fun show too, though, which is always nice. Yeah.
We were doing a lot of stuff that's not familiar territory, so it was kind of like plowing a field. It was hard to put it.
Exactly.
Yeah, put it in. It's hard. I'm not a great communicator anyway.
You were fine.
You did pretty good tonight.
You were fine.
Communicate this information that's sort of it's not mainstream. It's definitely not evangelical.
Right. No.
But you know what? I'm telling you, anybody that wants to debate where we came from and what we actually are, this is a very readable book, and the ideas sort of really helped me work through my own questions. And I think that everybody can take a moment to just sort of look into where we came from, and I think it's a good idea to do so for our own morality, and there's nothing wrong with it. So I'm glad that you were able to share that with us, and it was a very good opportunity for us to get out a few questions as well.
Well, I promise your listeners that I'm a better communicator on paper.
Yes, well, you were very good tonight. It's all right.
Well, with your book and the your Facebook page, the your
Legacy of Bable.
Legacy of Bable page. You got a lot of good detailed information there, so we'll be plugging that away. But it was a great show tonight, Todd. Pleasure was ours.
I met Tiffany and Eureka, and
I'm sorry to hear.
You're not sorry.
Tiffany is spectacular.
She is. I love my Tiff.
Such a pleasure communicating with her. I think she's fabulous.
Thank you.
Kevin, you and I think a lot alike.
Yes, I do. And you know what? You and I we will talk ongoing, because not only are we X-File fans, we are thinking the same thing when it comes to the crash and burn UFO technology. So there's a lot of things I think we see, when we're on the same page with. So I'll be interested in, just tagging along your journey and sharing your, reading your stories and sharing my thoughts. And hey, we'll definitely all cross paths one more time. I would like that. I think there's more still to tell than tonight. So.
I'm going to try to catch Tiffany at one of these conferences again too, like maybe Eureka again.
Well, we're working on getting our conference schedule together for next year. So I've got quite a few different options on the plate. So we will definitely get with you about that.
One of them.
Yeah, we will.
For sure.
We will.
Maybe Kevin will be there.
Kevin's not allowed.
Try.
He's too much of a skeptic. We're not inviting Kevin. Kevin,
Well,
no.
yeah, I will ask. I ask questions that could, I just don't automatically play along.
Yeah.
But anyways, yeah.
I'm
Todd,
technically a skeptic. I'm just nice.
Yeah, well, that's probably me too.
Yeah.
Anyways.
You're a nice guy. Yeah.
All right, man.
Well,
Good stuff, Todd.
Thank you so much, and we will definitely post your information on our website as well.
Thanks, guys.
All right. Thank you.
All right,
Todd, have a good night, brother. See you.
Thanks, sir.
Thanks.
So, Kevin, I would like to take one moment to discuss an event that's coming up called Terraween, and it's the UFO Festival in Massachusetts. And it's one of our former guests, Tom Reed, and Travis Walton are actually going to be initiating this conference. And it's the first one, and they're going to be trying to sort of get a few different cities involved over the next few years. But this one's actually going to be in Salem, Massachusetts, on the Salem waterfront at the hotel and suites there. And it's going to be on October 22nd. And it's actually going to have a few different speakers, including Travis and Tom. But we would definitely, oh my God, I would love to go. I mean, can you imagine Salem in October? I mean, it's got to be probably one of the craziest places that you could be.
Wow. Yes, definitely.
So
witches.
I know. Have you ever been there?
I have on a business trip to Boston. I got to spend like a half a day in Salem.
Mm-hmm. Did you go to the jailhouse?
During the day. I did, yes. Went on a little tour.
Did you get any creepy feelings?
No, it was all during the day. I would have preferred to like been there at night. So.
Yeah. Well, I went, and it was probably one of the freakiest places that I've been in a long time, and I really did. I practically crawled out of my skin while I was down in the jailhouse, and I'm not sure what it was because I was there during the day too. But I'm sort of a empathic person, and I sort of get feelings from places and people, and that's one of the places I probably shouldn't have gone. So. But anyways, so that's October 22nd. But anyways, we would definitely recommend going there if you are going to be in the Salem area. But, we've got a few other things coming up too, like Waverly Hills. Don't they have something cool coming up? They've got a few different things, don't they? Hello. Kevin.
Tiffany.
What are you doing?
My boy,
what are you doing?
I had to run to the bathroom. I mean, literally, I had to untie the knot when I got to the bathroom. I am struggling for the last 10 minutes.
Have you seen the Jeff Foxworthy, the new one that's on Netflix right now? It's he says, "Do not ever unbutton the top button when you've got to go pee," because it's like telling your body that you're at the bathroom. You never want to do that.
Oh yeah.
Because then it's going to clear up. You got to clean up like a whole entire mess plus your clothes.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Don't
was
do
there
that
how much dead space was there?
Oh, not much.
I thought you were going to ramble on. I really thought you were going to ramble on.
I do ramble. Oh my God.
Well, what I've come to find out through the software that I use, I stumbled on this automatic process where it trims the silence. I can set it to a 0.2 seconds. So if any silence is greater than 0.2 seconds, it chops it.
Oh, I like that. How'd you figure that out?
Just playing around with it. Remy's been to Salem. Yeah. Remy's been to Salem.
Yeah.
The cemetery next to the asylum is crazy, and next time I should wear diapers on the show. Screw you, Remy. I'm not. One day I'll maybe wearing diapers, but not today.
Oh, I thought
right.
Vipers rock.
Yeah. All right, Tiffany, very good show. Next week's show, go on and start plugging that. If the schedule's right,
well, you're not going to be
your
there,
boy.
are you? I know.
I'm not.
My buddy Micah Hanks is going to be
I've got to go
on.
to the Velvet Saints thing, so that's where I'm going.
Oh,
but
well,
you could
you're
pull this
bailing on
off.
me.
You could definitely pull it off.
Micah. Yeah, Mike and I will be fine because we're both talkers too. So.
Right. So that'll be good. But I'll make sure you know what you're.
Unfortunately, you're going to go to the Velvet Saints.
Yeah, maybe in between, if there's a break between in between a set that's during the show, I may call in, and if you got time for me to call in and ask a question or something, I may do that. So, but we'll talk this week. So. But yeah,
awesome.
Great show tonight with Todd, man. It was a lot of fun. Yeah, and it was actually just he and I were on the same page with a lot of our beliefs and thinking, and so that was kind of cool. So
yeah. All
right. So I guess shutting it down for Tiffany Mack. I'm Kevin Hale. This has been the KT Unearthly show, shooting the shift in reality on Friday nights with you people, you aliens, you hybrids.
All you hybrids out there.
Ghosts and spirits, which we need to start show on the 20th. Yeah. It is season. So, all right, Team Mac, have a good night. We will holler later.
All righty, we're out.
Anytime the sunshine comes down on me to warm the air that I breathe, anywhere oceans are teeming with life, without you it could never be. Yeah, without you, there are no stars in the sky. Without you, there's no reason why. I'd be living alone in this great big world without you. Without you. Anytime love is alive and well, anytime faith can believe, until hope can begin of itself. Without you, it could never be. Yeah, without you, there are no stars in the sky. Without you, there's no reason why. Without you, I'd be living alone in this great big world. Without you. Without you, there are no stars in the sky. Without you, there's no reason why. Without you, I'd be living